All right. So a lot of people on YouTube, one of the major worries, well, there's two major things that people search for help on. One is abundance, money, material possessions, things like that. And the other would be SP, specific person. Specific person seems to be a very big one, especially with ladies. You see it with, I mean, there's men out there, but I notice in my social media and other travels in this on this topic, I notice it's really big with the ladies. Constantly, worrying about the SP, the guy they're dating, wanting commitment, whatever. So I'm not a woman, obviously, but I can give my situation. Okay, I am married. It's my second marriage. Okay, my first marriage, for whatever reason, it didn't seem to be working out. I wasn't happy. So it wasn't just her. It was a lot of things at that point in my life. Okay, and I kept asking, is there any more out there? I started asking questions. And that's one thing, asking questions, because you're essentially asking questions of God, right? Universe, God, your God consciousness. So I was asking, what that is? That's the mirror behind me doing that. So I started asking questions, and I remember one thing when I ponder this that I'm specifically drawn to over and over again is I remember I was at some sort of a soccer game, a kid's soccer game, and this is going to seem shallow. It's not. I hope it doesn't. But my ex-wife was several years older than me, and she wasn't very feminine. She was very tomboyish and everything. And when I was younger, it didn't bother me so much. It bothered me more as I got older. That's just, and I'm not to judge anybody else out there. There was a lot of things, right? That was just a superficial thing that I remember. And I remember being at the soccer game and seeing all these, and the other thing is she had red hair, okay? So I noticed a lot of these mothers were younger and blonde. Now, I have a certain affinity for blonde women. Hair color isn't the most important thing for me, but I like blondes. So anyway, so I asked the question, and there were a lot of problems, things I didn't like. I was dissatisfied on many levels. So I started asking the question, where's my pretty young blonde wife? Okay. And every time I think about this, I'm drawn to that moment when I asked that, and I was looking at the younger, sexier, feminine, pretty blonde mothers that were there. This just keeps coming up in my head every time I would think about it, and I would ponder it a lot. So the seed was planted. Okay, the seed was planted. So as time went on, now at the time I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't know about Neville Goddard, right? I did not know about Neville Goddard. I'm trying to get this thing positioned right. That's why I keep moving. The green screen keeps messing up. So and mind you, this took several years. This did not happen immediately for me. So you have to kind of be patient. At times, things happen in their appointed time. You can't rush them. So time went on, and time went on. I didn't realize that my ex-wife started an affair with someone. She was cheating on me. I was just a guy who was going to work every day, taking care of our child when she wasn't around, and it seemed like lately she wasn't around a lot. More and more. and her mother lived downstairs in the house we were in. And, her mother would come upstairs at 11 o'clock at night. Where is she? She's working late. She tells me she's working. Yeah, she was working, all right. So, so long story short, eventually things came to a head. I found out. Other people told me what was going on, said, open your eyes, whatever. This is now in the 3D. I didn't realize that I'm actually creating it all, right? Didn't realize at the time. I thought I was a victim of something, and ended up separated, living in the same house, blah, blah, blah. All the details, things, you can imagine how those things go. It's not the most comfortable situation. And so eventually I move out. I temporarily moved back with my parents. Luckily, they were there. And again, these are things that were created for me. At the time, I was very ashamed, being in my early 40s and having to, as a man, moving back with your parents. But now I realize I created all that as a safety cushion. There's no embarrassment required. No embarrassment is necessary. All these concepts of being a certain self-sufficiency or not being able to do things without help from other people, these are all just things we create. If we have that, we created it for ourselves, accept it gracefully, with gratitude, right? And I was grateful. So anyway, through time, got divorced, whatever. But in the process of all of this, I dated a few women out there, and I was laid off at the same time. I got laid off from my job. I worked for Hewlett-Packard, and they were doing some big downsizing, and our location got axed. So I had some severance pay, not that much, several months worth, I guess, and stock options, whatever, and I was laid off. Now, I was actually laid off for probably a little over a year. I'm in technology. I was working as a system administrator, like Unix-style system administration, supporting software development, all of that, like a lab administrator, whatever. And I couldn't find anything. I've never been a programmer, a programming type, and to get work in that, you kind of need to be more on the programming side, and things were even going that way. So anyway, just, if you could stick with this, I end up having contact with somebody, or reestablishing contact with somebody who I worked with years ago when I was a software tester. And her career went up, and she's like a director now, right? And she's in the position to hire people. She's working in New York City. I'm in the New York City area. So, and all the jobs are in New York City. So I end up getting this great consulting job. Now, that's a little fast forward. Before the job came, I was dating a few women. It's kind of weird dating while I was unemployed. That was interesting, And, this one, that one, but one of them that I kind of met by accident. This was somebody who lived in my hometown, who lived around the corner from me when I was growing up. And her and her sister are blonde, right? Attractive blondes. Younger than me. And not terribly younger, within a few years. So I end up meeting the younger sister, who turns out she's single and dating, and she wants to get married and have a family. She's been dating these guys. No one wants to settle down. So she had a problem with the fact that I wasn't I was kind of separated, but I was living in the same house, even though I wasn't sleeping with my ex-wife. We were living on different floors. It was like a bi-level type deal. But yeah, she obviously had a problem with that. And so, you know, we kind of met and everything. It seemed like she liked me. I liked her a lot. And then over the course of a few weeks or whatever, you know, this and that, I'm doing this, doing that. I see on social media that all of a sudden she's dating some other guy. Ugh. And I figure it's because of the whole whatever, the situation. Okay. So she's dating some other guy. Wow. That hurt. Okay. So I said, okay. You know, and mind you, not knowing about Neville Goddard, I have visualized, I have an active imagination. I visualized myself with her and things like that. So I was planting seeds, not even realizing it. Okay, so okay, fine. You wanna date somebody else, whatever. Okay, I stayed friends with her and whatever. So I start looking elsewhere, right? So I end up dating this one and that one, and then she sees it. I don't know. I'm not realized, but she's actually watching from afar, and her relationship with this guy within a few months fell apart. He didn't want. He was divorced with a kid from a previous marriage, and he didn't want any more kids or anything like that. And it devastated her. And then at the time, I had dropped, you know, severed with some people I was seeing, and we kind of started talking and hanging out again together. And she had told me that she was watching from afar, and when she saw me with this one or that one, that she was a little jealous, even though she was kind of dating this other guy. So you see how things happen in the background? So, you know, long story short, again, we end up dating, we end up together, and within a few months, she wants me to move in with her, which I was wary about. I had already moved out of, during this time I had moved out of that other situation. So, you know, within a few months we were living together. I had gotten this great consulting gig in New York City, making, you know, a lot of money. And, you know, within, I don't know how many months, I ended up getting a formal divorce. And we ended up getting engaged and eventually married, right? And now this is all 10 to 12 years ago behind me now, okay? So things can take time. They take their appointed time. But when you really look at things, it's miraculous how they can happen. And when you realize what's really going on, then it all makes sense. It all makes sense. None of this was random. These were seeds that I had planted. And they had to happen in their time. A bridge of incidences had to happen to allow it to happen logically. All right? Neville Goddard tells us that, you know, people are like asleep in this life, allowing things to happen around them, just them manifesting on autopilot based on their reactions, their day-to-day reactions, sloppy mental diet, whatever, because they don't know what's going on. And then when they get this material and they start actively using it, even briefly, you know, they'll manifest something miraculous or some big change in their life. But it will happen in such a natural way that they'll be tempted to say, oh, but it would have happened like that anyway, right? Because the situation I just told you about sounds all completely normal and logical. I'm sure it's happened a similar way for many other people out there. So people are going to say, yeah, but that happens all the time. What's miraculous about that? Well, yeah, I know what I was visualizing and what I was thinking about, what I had specifically asked for. And it all came true, all right? It didn't happen in a day or a week, though, but it all came true in a spooky, spooky way when you think about it. There are things that are spooky. I mean, I'm telling you these things in an abridged way. I obviously can't go through it in that kind of detail in this video. And, you know, I have a personal life. I don't want to, you know, I'm telling you a lot here. But I'm trying to illustrate that this stuff really does work. And it's not all about, you know, people's affirmations, people's desires, they don't all revolve around having a mansion or a Lamborghini. You know, some people are going to say, well, you know, I had some guy comment on one of my videos and say, you know, basically he called me ugly. I love that. And that's probably my own insecurity sending him to do that. You know, I still have them, right? I'm human. And never said I was 100% perfect at this. I'm not Neville. But so not only did he say that, but he's basically, well, you're not God. You've gone and have you gone and raised the dead this week, or have you know said you're still poor? Like, you know my finances, pal. You don't know my finances. I have a very good job in technology, right, in New York City, right, and I work from home a lot and everything else. I work in the technology field for decades. You don't know my finances, right? I make out pretty good, and I have side gigs as well. So they make all these assumptions. And they're using their own, you know, their own biases or expectations. You know, some people come into this thing saying, well, if you're successful at this or you're able to do this, how come you don't have a mansion or you don't have 10 cars in your driveway? Not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants the same thing in life, or is willing to put the time into it to get those certain things. They might be happy living a middle-class life with a regular house and a family, or they have so many things going on that they can't really, you know, they might be working on some of that distantly, but it's just really not a priority with them, believe it or not. You know, believe it or not. Not everybody wants to be Elon Musk. You know, not everybody wants to be Jeff Bezos. Because, you know, as there's another guy online, Elmer Locker Jr., he's got a good channel that's blown up in the last year. And his grandfather knew Neville Goddard, right? His grandfather was a student of Neville Goddard. And his grandfather would tell stories about, and by the way, I don't know if Elmer watches me at all. I really like Elmer. And his grandfather was a hoot, funny guy. He's passed on since, but he was a funny guy. And he would tell story how, you know, he could tell you how to make $3 million or whatever. You could just ask for it, but understand things are going to happen naturally, and you're still going to have to kind of work for it or whatever. Like, you don't know how it's going to come into your existence or what you're going to have to do in your 3D to get it. You may be inspired to get it. You may have the opportunity come about, but it's not necessarily going to just fall in your lap. I mean, it could, but it might not. So, you know, not everybody's willing to do that sort of legwork to be an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos. I mean, look at their lifestyles, you know. I mean, everybody wants to, you know, be in East Coast half of the day, West Coast the other half of the day. Everybody wants that lifestyle. So don't be tempted to say, well, you know, you have to be one of them in order to be on here telling people about this stuff, okay? Because this stuff works with everything, small, medium, large, all right? It's what you're willing to put the time into doing. So, you know, I'm putting it out there raw, right? I'm telling you these things. And I'm telling you this stuff is true. Now, a lot of you watching this already know that, so I'm preaching to the choir with some of you. Other of you might be on the fence, and yet other new people come in, because I'm going to put this video out there. I assume this video will be there 10 years from now, you know. So anyway, just stick with it. Stick with it. Do the affirmations, do the work, do the visualization stuff, okay? And stick with it. And it will happen for you. Something will happen for you. We really do create reality. So anyway, please like and subscribe. Please look at my old videos. Please look at my Neville Goddard lecture videos, all in my catalog. And I may have some merch stuff in my video description if you're so inclined. I do some stuff on Amazon, and I find it fun. Enlightening type stuff. That's fun. So anyway, appreciate your time, and I'll see you in another video. Thank you.